In this podcast episode, world-renowned psychoneurobiologist Dr. Caroline Leaf dives deep into the intricate relationship between the mind and the brain, explaining how the mind shapes the brain through thought processes and how we can intentionally manage our mental landscape to foster well-being. She discusses the neuroplasticity of the brain, the importance of mastering our mind to achieve inner peace despite life's inevitable traumas, and offers a detailed process called the Neurocycle for mental self-management. Dr. Leaf also challenges prevailing mental health narratives around diseases like depression and addiction, emphasizing trauma as a natural human response rather than an illness. Quantum physics, brain building, resilience, healing from trauma, mental health in children, and what it means to cultivate greatness are all explored in this comprehensive discussion. Dr. Caroline Leaf begins by clarifying the often confused concepts of the mind and brain. While the popular and scientific literature frequently use these terms interchangeably, she stresses that the brain is the physical organ incapable of independent function outside the body, whereas the mind is the non-physical, energetic field responsible for thinking, feeling, and choosing. She illustrates this with a magnet and iron filings analogy, where the brain acts like a magnet and the mind like the electromagnetic field organizing behavior and experience. The mind is constantly active, processing sensory input and translating it into meaning by growing neural pathways, conceptualized as trees with roots and branches within the brain. This ongoing dynamic means mental activity shapes the physical brain continually in real time. Dr. Leaf describes the mind as an energetic gravitational field extending beyond the physical brain and body. This field interacts with the fields of others and the universal environment, explaining phenomena such as emotional contagion and even subtle physical sensations like electrostatic shocks when touching others. She connects this to the principles of quantum physics, which study unseen energy waves and subatomic particles. According to quantum physics, observation alters reality, a principle aligning well with her understanding that our deliberate choices through thought, feeling, and will actively shape our brain, body, and ultimately our world. She explains that thoughts produce physical responses, with neurochemical waves and photons emitted in healthy versus toxic mental states. Brain processes interact with this mind field, impacting health and behavior. Dr. Leaf recounts her early career in the 1980s, when the brain was believed to be fixed and incapable of change after injury. Contradicting this dogma, her clinical work and research demonstrated that intentional mind management could affect significant recovery and transformation even in severe cases like traumatic brain injury. One notable example is a young girl regaining grade-level function post-accident and significantly improving cognitive abilities. She highlights that thoughts literally grow in the brain through repeated active usage, shaping neural pathways. The mind, when managed properly, can direct neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, resulting in physical and psychological healing. This discovery reframes mental health recovery as a process of mastering the mind rather than relying solely on external interventions. A central and provocative theme Dr. Leaf emphasizes is that mental health challenges, such as depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia, are not brain diseases, but natural human responses to adverse life events. These states serve as messenger signals, alerting individuals to underlying trauma or toxic patterns needing attention. She critiques the reductionist chemical imbalance theory and the over-medicalization of mental health, noting that labeling behaviors as illness removes personal agency and increases stigma while often failing to address root causes. Instead, she advocates for recognizing despair and anxiety as survival instincts prompting necessary change, and for encouraging acceptance and management of these responses rather than suppression. Dr. Leaf introduces the Neurocycle, a structured 5-step process anyone can learn to manage their thinking and emotional responses effectively. This system begins with preparation by recognizing the presence of a co-pilot or wise mind to stabilize the pilot amid acute trauma or stress. The first step, gather, involves conscious awareness and control of emotional warning signals, physical responses, behaviors, and perspectives during stressful moments. Next is reflect, where one thoughtfully examines the meaning and triggers of these signals without judgment. The third step is writing or visualizing one's insights in a pattern-like form called a metacog, promoting deep brain synthesis of information. The fourth step merges these insights to identify patterns and reconceptualize thoughts. The final step involves a purposeful action or small change that anchors the new perspective and supports behavioral change. The neurocycle must be practiced consistently, typically 15 to 45 minutes daily over at least 63 days, to effectively rewire the brain and achieve sustained mental transformation. This time frame contrasts with the popular 21-day habit myth, supported by research showing that deeper lasting change requires repeated mental cycling to transfer new learning from non-conscious to conscious processing. Dr. Leaf explains trauma as an adverse life event stored in the mind as toxic thought trees with deep roots in memory and emotion. Trauma often remains cocooned inside due to lack of readiness and becomes problematic as it slowly infiltrates daily functioning until it explodes in mental distress or behavioral issues. Healing trauma involves not only processing the factual memories, but also reconceptualizing their meaning and release from ongoing mental entanglement with perpetrators or painful events. She distinguishes forgiveness from release, suggesting that while the wrongness of trauma can never be excused, individuals can release themselves by cutting the invisible ties that bind mind and energy to past hurts. Healing emerges through cycles of self-exploration, supported reflection, and rewriting personal narratives to embed new, empowering meanings and resilience. Aside from trauma management, Dr. Leaf advocates for regular brain building as essential for protecting and enhancing mental health. Brain building involves learning new information or skills deeply through focused study and application of the Neurocycle's 5 steps, moving beyond passive reading to active, integrative thinking. She compares this to cleaning teeth to avoid toxic waste. If mental growth is neglected, brain health deteriorates, affecting sleep and overall functioning. Physical activities that require coordination, such as playing ping pong or tennis, also stimulate brain building by challenging motor and cognitive pathways. This combined mental and physical brain building fosters resilience and supports recovery and ongoing mental peace. Emphasizing daily practice for mental well-being, Dr. Leaf highlights self-regulation as the cornerstone of mental peace. She encourages constant but natural monitoring of one's thoughts, feelings, and choices throughout waking moments to catch escalating stress or negativity early. Although it may sound demanding, this increased self-awareness becomes more natural with practice, becoming an effortless habit that underpins consistent mental management. Developing this ongoing awareness enables individuals to direct their responses intentionally rather than being overwhelmed by subconscious patterns or external circumstances. Throughout the conversation, Dr. Leaf critically challenges mainstream mental health paradigms that pathologize natural human responses and promote quick fixes through medication. She stresses that chemical imbalances lack conclusive evidence and that labels often shorten life expectancy by promoting dependency rather than autonomy. Addictions, too, are framed not as diseases, but as symptom-driven coping mechanisms for unresolved pain or trauma. She insists that reclaiming agency through supportive environments and compassionate self-work leads to far higher recovery rates than biological determinism allows. Her stance invites a profound reevaluation of how society understands, treats, and talks about mental health issues. Dr. Leaf underscores that cultivating mental resilience starts in childhood through open, accepting communication about emotions. Parents should validate children's feelings without minimizing or dismissing them, even when emotions seem trivial to adults. Creating a safe, non-judgmental space helps children learn to recognize, name, and manage their mental experiences effectively. She advocates modeling authentic emotional expression as parents, including acknowledging personal struggles and resolving conflicts transparently. This openness fosters trust and teaches children that mental health challenges are a part of life to be managed, not feared or hidden. Early education on emotional literacy lays the foundation for lifelong mental well-being and self-regulation. Toward the end, Dr. Leaf defines greatness as mastery of one's own thinking, feeling, and choosing, the essence of exercising mind agency. Greatness is not about external accomplishments or fame, but about personal mental peace, growth, and contribution to humanity by enhancing others. When individuals realize their unique capacity to shape reality through their minds, envy and competition diminish, replaced by collaboration and mutual upliftment. This perspective embraces the Kanugi principle, which celebrates the beauty in healing trauma. As if mending a shattered vase with gold lacquer, transforming pain into strength and purpose. Greatness emerges from owned vulnerability and conscious transformation, rather than perfection. Reflecting on her nearly 4 decades of experience, Dr. Leaf acknowledges that even as an expert, maintaining continuous mind management is her personal challenge. She often wishes to fix others' pain too, but recognizes that change is self-driven and outside her direct control. Globally, the biggest challenge is correcting the misconception that mental suffering equals brain damage or disease. Changing this narrative is critical to restoring hope, agency, and real healing in mental health practices and public perceptions. Dr. Leaf actively shares her work through books, social media, and her podcast, Cleaning Up Your Mental Mess. She encourages listeners and readers to engage with her systems and resources, which include guided Neurocycle apps and teachings designed for adults and children alike. She is committed to evolving the scientific understanding of mind-brain connections and making this knowledge accessible for practical self-improvement and trauma recovery worldwide. Her approach combines rigorous neuroscience with compassionate, realistic psychology and quantum physics insights for a holistic view of human mental health.